The Gold Star Kid, The Gold Star Kid and the Dream Angel, Book 1, J.R.P. Taylor. Introduction. Miles Egbert, a boy of just 8 years of age from Ohio, USA, looked down at the tarmac of the Cracker Barrel car park in Toledo. There on the floor beside him, sparkling upwards in the sunlight towards him, he saw an old $20 bill. His thoughts immediately turned to the purchase of a new video game, but while sat beside his mother, awaiting his food and pondering his options, his eye was drawn to the attention of a soldier. This army man's name was Lieutenant Colonel Frank Daly, a member of the Air National Guard. Miles had never seen him before. Picking up a small, scrap piece of yellow notepaper, Miles decided to write a letter to the soldier who was sat opposite him in the restaurant whilst eating with his own family. "Dear soldier," he wrote. "My dad was a soldier. He's in heaven now. I found this $20 note in the parking lot when we got here. We like to pay it forward in my family. It's your lucky day." Frank Daly reported to CBS News reporters later, "I consider Miles's act of kindness as an honour. It's incredible being recognised in such a manner. I will remember the gift for a lifetime." In concluding the letter to the anonymous soldier, he'd ended, "Thank you for your service, Miles Egbert, a Gold Star Kid." Lieutenant Colonel Daly, overcome with gratitude for the gift, said, "I look at it every day. Miles gave me so much more than $20. He gave me a lifetime direction, for sure." Miles's father, Army Sergeant Andy Egbert, had died just 5 weeks after his son had been born. He had given his life while serving his country in Iraq. Miles's mother, Tiffany, drove him to his father's grave after the gift was made. Miles wanted to be alone with his father. He wanted to go see his dad, and he wanted to go by himself that day, she explained to the news reporters. She had never anticipated that this story would now be featured on national television. "Good deeds like this are not out of the ordinary for the Egberts," she said. "This is actually something that we do on a regular basis. We pay it forward often. This story just happened to take off." The story first aired on the CBS television channel across America, and a little 8-year-old boy from Toledo, Miles Egbert, had now become a local celebrity. After church, a few days later, we went to Five Guys, a fast food burger outlet, and we walked in and there were some soldiers from the 180th, and we went over there to say thank you for your service. Tiffany recalled, most surprised. They all knew who Miles was. While we were there, it was like every single person knew who Miles was, and they were coming up to him in tears and giving him $20 and wanting pictures with him, she added. "I couldn't be more proud. But this is our normal life," she told the reporters. "Kindness always wins, and that's something I've been teaching our kids forever." The story that now follows is based on the true events of March 2014 above. I too believe that kindness always wins. Why did we forget to teach our own children this? Help for Heroes, United Kingdom. Our mission is to deliver an enduring national network of support for our wounded and their families. We will inspire and enable those who have made sacrifices on our behalf to achieve their full potential. So many of our servicemen and women have made the ultimate sacrifice. So many lives have been lost and so many changed forever by the wounds that they have suffered in the course of their duties. For these selfless people, it is after the guns have fallen silent, the din of the battle quietened, that the real fight begins, a fight that may last for the rest of their lives. His Royal Highness Prince Harry, on being presented with the Award for Distinguished Humanitarian Leadership, May 2012. Gold Star Children, United States. Gold Star Children, a not-for-profit organisation, was founded in 2008 to raise awareness about American child survivors whose mothers or fathers were killed or died while serving in the United States military. Utilising film and interactive media, the current goal of the Gold Star Children is to distribute the documentary film Gold Star Children to every state in the US and audiences around the world to remind the child survivors of war that they are not alone. The film is intended to draw attention to military families and those impacted by war, but it is also intended to inspire and help non-military Americans understand, support and get involved with our military families and the children left behind by our fallen warriors.
I hear angels, I hear angels to hold my hand, take my hand. Can you feel them? I can feel them close to hand. Understand? Do you hear them? Do you hear them? To death I'm damned. Take my hand, and as I reach for God, I hear His name. He's calling, and Father, forgive me for all I had done. And I feel lonely, cold and lonely. Take my hand, take my hand. And am I dying? And am I dying? I shed my tears, my last tear. Deadly silence, deadly silence. Faithful hush, to a faithful hush. And as I reach for God, I call His name. He's calling, and Father, forgive me for all I have done. And I hear angels, and I hear angels come to take my hand, my hand.
The Gold Star Kid, Chapter 1, Copper's End. I'm so sick of chicken, said Ryan, dropping his third clean fork to the floor as he struggled to eat and play Dragon Raid at the same time. You'll get fat, shouted his mum, Tanya, from the kitchen as she mopped the floor. The new puppy, Thumper, had given the family yet another free gift, a small wet patch to the linoleum covering, to say thank you for its new home. Take Thumper out for a walk for me, she asked. I just haven't had 5 minutes to turn around today, she said. Muttering under his breath, Ryan reluctantly agreed. Copper's End was a lovely, quiet, rural village, and nothing much ever happened. Last week Ryan had seen a fox, and that was about it. They hadn't long lived in the countryside, but it was something they had long dreamed about. Ryan lost his father, Norman, many years ago, and Copper's End would be a fresh start, his mother hoped. Norman was a soldier, a member of the Queen's Royal Lancers, and he had given his life in service at the Battle of Telek, following the 2003 invasion of Iraq in the Middle East. Ryan often thought of his dad. He was 13 years old now and very happy to finally be a teenager at last. But being a teenager meant that he had now lived for 13 years without ever meeting his father. Naturally, this saddened Ryan a great deal. What saddened him even more was that now they had moved from the city to Copper's End, he could only visit his father's grave following trips back to see his grandparents in Warwick every 4 weeks or so. The family had not coped well with the tragedy of Norman's loss. Initially it was very difficult and painful, but as time passed, and with only happy memories to talk of, they eventually decided that they had to move away and make a fresh start for themselves. 13 years in mourning had now proved to be enough. The wider family, aunts, uncles, cousins and grandparents were happy for them too. Grandad said to Ryan, "Your mother has always wanted to live in the country. I think this will be great for you both." Norman had always dreamed of buying a house in the country for them all after Ryan was born, but sadly it would never happen. Tanya had always dreamed of owning her own horse. As Ryan walked Thumper in the woods, continually fetching her ball back and forth as Ryan would throw it, and occasionally chasing the odd wood pigeon or two that, startled, would now take to flight, he wondered what life would be like if his dad was still alive today. What would having a father be like, he thought to himself. He thought too about what he would actually do if this stupid dog ever managed to actually catch one of those pigeons it so eagerly chased, though this was most unlikely to ever happen. After finishing the dog walk, he went promptly back home. It was almost 5:30 on a Friday afternoon, and this meant that later on that evening, mother and son would always enjoy a fish and chips supper. "I've only got £5.20 in my purse," Tanya said. "I'll tell you what, we either have chips and make a chip butty each, there'll be enough for that, and some mushy peas too, or we can wait until tomorrow for a change, and I'll treat you to supper out at that new restaurant in town." Ryan had tried to remind his mum to take some money out of the ATM during their last shopping trip, their last shopping outing, but, as usual, her mind had been miles away. Living out in the country miles from a bank meant the normal things they would take for granted, such as access to cash machines, needed much more planning. "OK, Mum, that's great," he said. "Let's wait until tomorrow then." He was of course a little disappointed. He loved his special treat, his weekly chip supper, but he would never want to upset his mother over such small things. Being brought up without a father had made him value the good things in life, his family and friends, and never to take anything else, no matter how small, for granted. Ryan's mobile then rang. "It's Hassan," said the corner. "We're all going to watch a new DVD tonight, and my dad said you can come over too. Do you want to?" Ryan paused, turned to his mum and asked, "Can I, Mum, please?" Hassan's dad was called Iqbal, and he was a teacher at the local school. Both Ryan and Hassan studied there together and were the greatest of friends. Tanya knew that Hassan's family had taken pity on her son, and that Iqbal had tried to be a father figure as well as a teacher to the boy. She did appreciate the family's kindness. When the family had first moved into the village 6 months earlier, it was he whom had taken the time to stop by and introduce the locals. This by means of countless never-ending stories that caused much folly and laughter. Iqbal was a good, honest man. "Go and have a great time, Ryan," she said, "and I'll pick you up around 10. After Ryan had run through the village, and as arranged, then waited to meet Hassan outside Rayner's, the local grocery, to buy crisps and pop for the evening's viewing, something caught his eye. As he'd sat waiting on the wall opposite the shop, he noticed a £20 note on the floor below him. He had to look several times before he realised it really was a £20 note and not just a figment of his own overexcited imagination. He jumped down and picked it up. Who could it belong to, he thought. He told Hassan of his find and decided it was best to hand it in to the shopkeeper. After all, it must have belonged to somebody who had been shopping earlier that day, mustn't it? He explained to Mrs. Rayner what had happened. "You must be the most honest boys in this village then, you two, that's for sure," she said. Ryan explained that he had not kept the money, as he knew many people in the village were very old and relied only on their pensions from the government, and this was not a lot of money to live on. This his mother had told him. Mrs. Rayner shouted for her husband Bill. "Come downstairs. The young ones have found some money outside. Do you know anything about it?" She loudly called up to him, as he was somewhat a little deaf these days, after years working down the West Midland pits. Arriving promptly, out of curiosity, Bill said, "Nobody's been in asking about a 20, that I'm sure of, Mrs. Rayner." "Then here's what we'll do with it," she said in reply. "I'm going to give you this note to keep. You deserve it for your honesty. There's not a cat-in-house chance of anybody coming back for that now. Lord knows who it belongs to. And if I give it to the local policeman, he'll not be happy about all the paperwork. Of that I'm sure. I'll tell him what I've done, and if anyone, by an angel's miracle, does come looking for it, I'll give it back myself. That's the deal, son." Mrs. Rayner was also all too aware of how difficult life must be for Tanya, the boy's mother, struggling to cope alone on her war widow's pension from the army, but she did not embarrass Ryan by adding such a comment to the conversation. "I'll tell you what," Bill then uttered, certain that his wife was correct and that nobody would claim the money. "I second that. Make that £10 from each of us if they do. It'll be a blinking miracle for sure." Chapter 2. Decisions. Decisions. Making the correct decision had kept Ryan awake for what seemed like most of the night. He had had a brilliant time. The two boys had watched an action movie together, an army movie called Carter's Command, and had both loved every minute of it. But now back at home, he found he hadn't been able to sleep. All he could think about whilst lying awake in bed was making the correct decision. Just which new video game would he buy? His mum had already heard all about the find long before she had collected him at 10. Mrs. Rayner had telephoned her shortly after the boys had left the shop with their sweets and drink. "I'm just phoning to say," Mrs. Rayner had said, just so Tanya wouldn't worry that Ryan had not done the right thing. In offering her the money, he'd been very honest. She then explained her reasons for not accepting it. Over breakfast, Ryan scoffed down his cereal, at one point almost choking himself. He was all too eager to get online and check out the latest gaming reviews. He knew that he didn't have enough money for a brand new game, but just opposite Reggie's Pizza Emporium in the town centre, there was a second-hand dealer, Game Zone Corner. He knew that if he part-exchanged his old version of SWAT 17, he could probably pick up something quite decent and not too much out of date. "I want to tell you how proud of you I am. I love you so much, and if your dad was here, he'd be so proud as well," said Mum. "I've made a decision," she continued. "As you could have handed the money in and had nothing to show for it, I thanked the Rayners for their kindness and told them that I will now double it." Ryan was so happy with his mother's most generous offer, and that now added up to £40. With the Part X2, he could probably get something really decent, quite new in fact. Ryan gave his mum the biggest hug in the world. "And don't worry, we are still eating out this evening too," she joked. After much discussion with friends on social media and the online gaming forums ran by enthusiasts, he finally made his decision. He decided on Slender Man. It was out only 6 weeks, within his budget, and a quick email to Game Zone Corner had confirmed that they had a copy in stock. That day seemed to last a lifetime, and he had arranged that evening for Hassan to come over and play. As 3 p.m. arrived, his mother called him down from his bedroom. "If we go now, we can have dinner and catch Game Zone before they close on the way back." They soon arrived at Ma Baker's, the new restaurant in town that everybody in Copper's End had been talking about. This certainly was the fish and chip supper worth waiting that extra day for, they both agreed, with mushy peas, a pickled egg and a cheese and onion pasty. His mother couldn't quite work out where he had put it all. Every bit was gone. "Are you going to lick the plate now too?" she laughed. As Ryan then finished drinking, his favourite drink, a hot chocolate with vanilla, he noticed that a man who had been there earlier, as they'd arrived, was still stood there, and it had been now for at least an hour. "Why is he still standing there, Mum?" he asked inquisitively. "He's there for the soldiers. Help for Heroes. He's raising money for the injured boys," she told him. Ryan noticed a single tear then fall from her right eye, landing on the dinner plate in front of her. Tanya tried to dry her eyes, without any fuss, succeeding only in noticeably smudging her eyeliner. "Sorry, Mum," whispered Ryan, adding quietly, "I didn't mean to make you feel sad." "Oh, don't be silly, child," her gentle return. "Just enjoy your drink and tell me about the new game you're going to get today. I want to hear all about it." She smiled at him across the table, but even though Ryan was only 13, he had already worked out when his mum was just trying to bravely change the subject. "I'll just be a moment. I'm popping to the ladies to do my face. I'll just be a minute," Tanya said back over her shoulder as she now walked away from the table. Ryan, now alone, thought hard about the new video game as he played on his iPhone, and now concluded that he didn't really need it at all. In fact, he hadn't even finished all of the levels of Dragon Raid yet. He still had 7 and 8 to go, so he wasn't now sure why he wanted to part exit at all. Indeed, if he did sell it today, he would never find out what the secret code for Scarcum Cave was, would he? All he could think about, really, was this man collecting money for the injured boys. And after a quick search via the free Wi-Fi on the Ma Baker's network, he soon found the answer. Help for Heroes was a charity run by soldiers, many injured themselves during war, run on behalf of other injured soldiers. And the closer he looked again and again at the man raising money on the corner outside, the more he noticed that the reason he didn't move very far was because he had 2 artificial legs. Of this he was certain. "Look, Mum," he said, as she now returned, "he hasn't got any legs, has he?" I don't think he has, son, no. I think you are correct, but let's not stare. That would be very rude of us, won't it? Ryan then put his hand into his pocket and pulled out the old £20 note that he had found the day before outside Rayner's of Copper's End. Using a new black crayon that had come free as part of a colouring set with his meal, he said to himself, "I'm sorry, Your Majesty," and then proceeded to write across it, "This is for my dad." Tanya again went to the ladies' room, but this time running and quite inconsolable through tears, and so noticeably upset was she that one of the young waitresses felt the need to follow. In between bursts of uncontrollable, emotional outpouring, Tanya told the girl the story. "Then you have the most wonderful son in all the world, don't you?" the young waitress informed. "His father will be so proud to look down on him today. He's a Gold Star kid, isn't he?" By the time his mum had recomposed herself, and after much fun and laughter to re-cheer the mood, with the waitress now known to be called Alina from Ukraine, Ryan had already given the soldier on the corner the £20 note. He proudly told his mother, "His name is Nathan, he comes from Birmingham, and he is 32 years old. He has 3 children, a boy and 2 girls. The youngest of them, a boy, is 3. He lost both of his legs in the Helmand province 2 years ago to an improvised explosive device, exactly the same as the one that killed Dad." Pausing, he then added, "In fact, he looks a bit like Dad, but he has a beard and wears glasses." He stopped abruptly at that point. Tanya accordingly then reached deep into her handbag to find her purse. "Then you'd better give him that one as well, son. Here's the other 20. She passed another crumpled note over to him. "No, that's not necessary," said the now highly enlightened child. "Nathan says you've already lost enough. He says you've given more than any other could possibly offer. You gave your husband." Chapter 3. Dreaming. Quite exhausted from the day's activities, Ryan settled down to sleep early that evening at 9:30. It was not going to be long before he fell fast asleep. He was dreaming about racing cars and video games, nothing out of the usual, until he suddenly felt a warm breath upon his forehead, and then he heard a very gentle, beautiful whisper to his left ear. "Come with me, son," a male voice said. And as Ryan tried to open his eyes, he gained the sense that he was travelling very quickly, flying as fast as a rocket deep into a strange world he knew nothing of. He was no longer certain that he was still dreaming, but neither was he sure he was awake. Then, just as suddenly as his light-speed trip had started, it began to end. The whole journey lasted just a matter of seconds. He finally opened his eyes, expecting to be back inside his bedroom, but there he was, sat upon the hawk of a crescent moon, high above the world. Next to him sat a man holding a fishing rod, and every so often he would say to himself, "I've got one. There it is. Caught it this time, son." "Who are you?" asked a very sleepy and confused Ryan. "Well, that's a long story. I'm not sure where I should begin," the gentleman replied. "Am I dreaming?" asked the boy. The man went on to tell Ryan his own story. "I was a soldier a long time ago, and I died fighting in a war a very, very long way away from home and away from my family. As I lay there looking up at the sky, wondering what would become of me, I heard a voice say to me, 'Do not fear, for it is not for you to be frightened. I thank you for your service. Those who die selflessly fighting for the freedom of others cannot die. They are not forgotten.'" The man continued to explain whilst Ryan sat quietly and patiently listening. "I have travelled in the dream worlds of children ever since, and I saw what you did today, and that's why I'm here inside your dreams." "Am I really dreaming?" again inquired Ryan. "Well, that would be telling, wouldn't it?" The man, still trying to catch the other children's dreams with his fishing rod, replied, and now adding, "If you believe you are dreaming, then dreaming you are. But if you believe in the truth of your dreams, then you are no longer sleeping." The boy was now very confused. "So if I jump off this moon, what will happen to me? Will I fall to the ground or will I wake up?" "Try it and see." And with just these 4 little words, the man pushed Ryan hard enough on the back to make him fall forward and off the moon. As he fell faster and faster toward the earth below, he could see his house, his garden, and even Thumper the dog sleeping on the doorstep after scoffing down this evening's supper. And momentarily he could even see his mother, Tanya, sat in front of the television watching her favourite late-night soap drama whilst knitting him, in secret, his new football scarf. Suddenly he stopped, as if caught by a parachute. There he found himself hooked by a fishing hook, stuck in the back of his pyjamas, and being reeled back up towards the moon. "Glad you made it back, young man," laughed the kind figure. "Did you enjoy the trip?" Ryan hadn't felt scared at all. He had actually enjoyed the fall and knew deep down inside that he would not come to any harm. "So who are you then, and why are you here in my dreams?" he asked. And again a rather vague reply was returned. "Consider me to be a dream angel. That's the best way. It's quite a bit more complicated than that, but that's the easiest way for children to understand." "Did God send you? Have you come from heaven then?" the boy interrupted. "You can call it anything you like, and you can believe in anything you like," said the dream angel. "There are many ways to get there, but you must be good and you must always be kind. I'm here only to show you the direction. The rest is up to you." The dream angel explained that he would visit the boy 5 more times this week, and including tonight's visit, that would make 6 appearances in total. On the 7th night he would rest and watch. "Watch what?" asked Ryan. "Well, I don't know, because it hasn't happened yet," the dream angel chuckled. Ryan awoke and found that it was now 7:45 on Sunday morning. His mum was still sleeping, so he, as usual, helped to tidy the house before going out to play football on the green. He put the washing machine on, washed the dishes, walked Thumper, and even made his own bed. The last bit was most unusual. He left a note on the kitchen table that read, "Gone to play football with Hassan and the others. Back at lunchtime. I made you some toast and here's a glass of orange. Love you. Kiss, kiss, kiss." Given the rush to do his chores this morning, and his need to get out of the house as quickly as possible, he quite forgot all about the strange dream he had had. He returned at 12:15, worn out and very tired, but happy. "Who won today?" asked Tanya. "We did, of course," laughed Ryan. "Listen, son," she said. "I've made you a present. I finished it late last night. I hope you like it. And it's a new football scarf you've knitted for me, red and white, for my favourite team, Nottingham Forest, isn't it? You've even included the oak tree logo too." Overcome with excitement, and until now had quite forgotten all about last night, his mum interrupted him mid-sentence. "How on earth do you know that?" she asked him. "It was a surprise. I kept it secret, and I even hid it so you wouldn't find it." "I dreamt about it, Mum," he said. "I was sat on the moon watching you make it." His mother didn't argue. She knew he must have seen her doing it somewhere. Perhaps he had woken up during the night and peeped through the door without her knowing. However, it didn't matter. As long as he loved the scarf and was happy with it, she was happy too. And today was the last Sunday of the month, and that meant that they would visit Grandma and Grandad in Warwick for Sunday dinner, and then go to Dad's grave. Tomorrow, Monday, was a bank holiday, and there was no school. They would be staying overnight in the town. "Grandma's putting dinner on the table at 2, she said, "and then we are all going to see Dad at 5. Grandma was very excited about dinner today. She was a fabulous cook, and today she had gotten vegetarian. She had prepared something very special for the family, and very proud of it she was too." Chapter 4. 6 Visits. As Ryan slept that night upon the sofa in his granddad's study, the dream angel, as promised, returned to him. "Wake up, young man. We've much to do," he said, as he shook his shoulders to interrupt his slumber. "You've come back to my dreams again," said the boy. "Of course I have. I said I would visit 6 times, and this is the 2nd. Maths isn't your best subject at school, is it, young Ryan?" "No, not really. In fact, I'm trying to work out—" "Yes, I know," the dream angel interrupting Ryan this time. "You've been trying to work out how old I am because I look like I am ancient to you, don't I? And you didn't want to ask me my age, as that would be rude of you, wouldn't it?" "Yes, but how did you know?" the bemused boy asked. "I'm a dream angel. I live in your dreams. I know everything. Today you went to your dad's grave, and you and your mother put a glass of Irish whiskey on it for your dad to drink. Yes? And Thumper ran off with one of the daffodils you placed there too." Ryan didn't bother to try and understand how this could be. He now just accepted the weirdness of the dream he again found himself in. "If you really want to know, in dream years, I am just a mere 47,212 years old. I think I look rather good for my age, don't you?" "I thought you were about 40-something, said the boy, laughing. The dream angel replied, "I suppose in Earth years that'd be about right. Assertively, the dream angel now changed the subject. "We've much to do and must get on. Look over there," he asked. Ryan looked down. He was again high in the sky and travelling at great speed, but this time he found he was sat on the wing of a plane, a very big red and white jumbo jet plane. "Why are we up here?" he asked. The dream angel then pointed to a young girl sat inside the plane. "Her name is Rebecca, and she is going to Disneyland. It's over there. Can you see it in the distance? And it's all because of you." "Because of me?" inquired Ryan. "Yes, because of you," came the appreciative reply. "When you gave your £20 note to the disabled soldier standing on the corner, you gave him so much more than just money. You gave him a dream bond. It was a dream angel that had dropped that money in Copper's End, there outside the Rayner's shop, and it was you who was the lucky one to pick it up. After you gave the soldier the money, he awoke the next day to find he had won a holiday in Florida and to visit Disneyland with his children. But his children, having heard the story he had told them about you, asked that the prize be given away to someone who needed it more. This girl, Rebecca, is a friend of the soldier's children, and she is very ill. It was her dream to meet Mickey Mouse, and now she will. If you look closely, you will see she has your £20 note with her. The soldier gave it to her to spend while she was on holiday. But I only found the money 2 days ago, and I only gave it to the injured soldier yesterday, didn't I?" Ryan said, a little confused. "What you can see here and now, Ryan, is in dream time. It is what will be and what will become." And now calmly smiling, the dream angel told him. Ryan looked blank-faced as if he did not understand. "Let me explain," he continued. "What you see now hasn't happened in real life yet. It is simply a premonition of what will happen in the future if you believe in it." "But what would have happened if I had kept the money for myself? If I had not told Mrs. Rayner about it? Or if I had never seen the soldier on the corner? Or what if I had not found the money at all?" Ryan had so many questions. "Well, that's a different story for another time," explained the dream angel. "But you did find the money, and you used it to do good for others, and that is why you found the dream bond. Maybe it was always going to be the way it is, or maybe not. I cannot tell you this answer, but you gave the money away because you believed in selfless kindness to others, and not because you feared the consequences should you not. That's what matters, and that's all that matters." Every night of the week, the dream angel came to Ryan and showed him, time and time again, where the £20 note had now travelled to. On Tuesday he saw how Rebecca had herself given the money to a homeless man. She had been given the dream holiday of a lifetime, and she too felt that she must now pass the money on. The homeless man then gave the money to his local church, who had so kindly fed and clothed him. They exchanged it into a $20 bill. Within a dream moment he had a new home, a job and a good future ahead of him. Ryan soon began to realise that it wasn't the money that carried the dream bond. It was hidden inside the hearts of the people who spent the money. On Wednesday, he saw how the note had been returned to a bank in England, and how it had then sat inside a businesswoman's purse. A businesswoman whom had that very evening realised her idea to revolutionise medical care for cancer sufferers worldwide. By Thursday, the note was now in the hands of a charity organisation who raised money for hungry children overseas, providing healthcare and schooling for them, and so on and so on. Ryan had spent his nights watching his old £20 note travel everywhere and had seen so many good things happen with it. But he knew he was still dreaming, and on Friday he had the best dream of all. He dreamt of how the dream bond had found its way back, all the way back to Copper's End again. For on Friday night, the dream angel had whispered a secret into his ear. He told Ryan that he must never forget what he had now been told, and tonight's dream was about his mother. And like all of the dreams that week, however, tonight was completely different. All of the countless dreams he had seen come true in dreamland were now past. And now, in this new dream, he saw only his mum, Tanya. Ryan and the dream angel sat on a fence together and watched from a distance how Tanya now rode her own horse. She was the happiest he had ever seen her, smiling and so full of joy, laughing and joking almost like a child. He could see several horses in a field beside a big house. It wasn't a house he could recognise, but he did seem to believe it was in Copper's End or somewhere very close to it. There, leaning against a gate across the paddock where Tanya rode the horse, he saw a man. He recognised him as the injured soldier he had met outside Ma Baker's restaurant immediately. Chapter 5. A New Family. The week had passed quickly, and so impressed were Ryan and his mother that again they sacrificed their Friday chip supper for the second time, preferring a Saturday afternoon outing to Ma Baker's again. "I dreamt about the soldier last night," he told her. "Did you, dear?" she politely responded. "You've had some very strange dreams this week, haven't you? Is something upsetting you? Is everything all right at school, sweetheart?" "Everything's fine, Mum, honest. They are just really weird dreams. But according to my dream, I won't dream tonight, because tonight is 7. "What's so special about 7, Ryan?" Tanya inquired. "Well, the dream angel takes a rest and just watches. But I don't know what, because he said it hasn't happened yet. Maybe the dream angel's coming with us today," he laughed. Arriving later that day and having parked the car, the two walked across to Nathan, the soldier, who was now beckoning them both over to him most excitedly. As always, he was collecting on Saturday afternoon outside the restaurant on the corner of Browning Avenue and had recognised Tanya's car. "You're famous!" he shouted out. "You're the Gold Star Kid!" Then, reaching behind him into his back pocket, he pulled out a rolled-up copy of the local newspaper. "Did you know about this?" Ryan asked his mother. "Yes, of course I did," she giggled. "I was going to take you to the newsagent to buy a copy. It was a surprise. I don't know how I've managed to keep my mouth shut all day," whilst laughing aloud. The story went on to tell readers all about the previous week's encounter with the Help for Heroes fundraiser and the £20 note that Ryan had found. It also informed the reader that the loss of Nathan's legs was not the only tragedy of the war. After he had returned from the war in Afghanistan, disabled, his wife, quite unable to cope, had left him. Nathan did apologise for unfortunately letting the cat out of the bag, but told the pair how the local office had insisted on contacting the local paper about the goodwill story. "Unfortunately there's no picture, son," he said, "but that'll soon be rectified later, I promise." The soldier exchanged personal addresses with Tanya and explained how the publicity team would soon be in touch. "If of course that is okay," he asked. They all exchanged pleasantries, and the soldier explained how nothing but good fortune had seemed to have befallen him lately. He was about to realise his dreams to open a new riding school for disabled children, and was in the process of buying a local property that was perfect for his purpose. After Nathan had spent what felt like ages describing the location in fine detail to Tanya, Ryan noted how this property was not so far from Copper's End. Indeed, what a coincidence, he thought. "In fact, I'm out that way tomorrow. If you'd like to join me, you are most welcome," Nathan asked the pair. "That would be lovely, wouldn't it, Ryan?" Mum smiled, and Ryan agreed. "Yes, please, Mum. I dreamt about you and horses last night, didn't I?" Going horse riding together had always been an unfulfilled passion for the pair, and when they moved to Copper's End a few months ago, they finally took lessons. Ryan couldn't contain his excitement at the prospect of riding again with Mum and Nathan the next day. The soldier went on to explain that he had been so busy lately that he now fancied a good holiday abroad with his kids. Jokingly, he remarked how he had just entered a competition to win a holiday to Disneyland in Florida that very same morning. Ryan, by now almost freaked out by the countless unexplained coincidences this morning, merely answered, "I have a feeling you're going to win it." Dinner was wonderful together that day. Ryan's mother now had a natural glow about her face, which Ryan couldn't quite explain, though she had seemed to lose her appetite somewhat. In the meantime, Ryan definitely enjoyed eating most of his mother's leftover cheese and onion pasty too. They laughed and joked together, and Ryan never caught sight of the dream angel watching him that day. And then he remembered what the dream angel had said. He had almost forgotten despite promising that he wouldn't. "Mum," he said excitedly, "I have just remembered more of my dream. I have to say to you, Bella will run like the wind." Tanya froze, as if the world had suddenly stopped spinning. "How can you possibly know that?" she said, quite taken aback and overwhelmed. "The dream angel told me in the dream that it would make you happy," Ryan told her. Again his mother started crying, and again Alina, the waitress from Ukraine, came to comfort her. "So this is your second time here, and the second time you've burst into tears. Is the food really that bad?" Alina joked. Tanya replied, "No, not at all. It's wonderful, honestly. It's my son's fault. He's always so bloody amazing." During the drive home after dinner, she tried to explain. "Your father had left me a letter to be opened only should he be killed in action and not come home again. In the letter he told me he was sorry that he wouldn't be able to buy me my horse, the one I had always dreamed of, but if heaven allowed he would call her Bella, and she would be able to run like the wind," she said in between her tears. She stopped the car, turned to her son and told him how nobody else had ever read that very personal last letter, and she had most definitely not ever discussed it with anyone else, ever. Of this she was unequivocal, unshakable and adamant. In fact, the letter had been buried in Norman's grave alongside him during his funeral. It was absolutely, completely and irrefutably impossible for Ryan to have known this unless of course... She stopped as Ryan now finished his sentence for her. "Was the dream angel really my father?" "Your dad wanted me to move on and remarry," she sobbed, holding her son's hands as if she would never let go. "But I just couldn't, not unless I knew you would be happy too." "I am, Mum, I promise you," he replied. "The dream angel said that you would know when the time is right, and that you will be happy again, living as a new family." After much emotional turmoil, Sunday morning soon arrived. Having slept well and both now fully refreshed after a good night's sleep, Ryan brought his mum a cup of tea in bed, and he soon noticed that her rosy glow had returned once more. A short time later, "It's nearly 9:30, she shouted up the stairs to her son. "They'll be here soon. Are you ready?" "Nearly. Just doing my teeth," he shouted back down. She then heard the clatter of horses' hoofs, and peering out from the kitchen window was amazed to see Nathan had arrived with 3 horses, one of which he was riding and the 2 others in tow. He was so organised, and he had even remembered to bring spare riding helmets with him. Tanya laughed and waved. This wasn't quite what she had expected, but a wonderful surprise it was, and sincerely most welcomed. The pair were very excited. Mother and son both mounted and trotted steadily away up the road with Nathan, as Thumper too happily ran along after them. "What are their names?" asked Ryan. "Well, mine is called Wellington. Yours is now called Gold Star Kid, because she is named after a famous boy called Ryan, and your mother's is called Bella. I'm told she can run like the wind." "I'll take you to the new house," he said. "I'd be delighted to show it to you if you want. My riding school is only just through the next village. Well, I call it mine. It will be in a few days. I just need to sign the papers." "I've paid the deposit, and they were more than happy to loan me the horses for the day, and I've got inquiries from many charities and organisations wanting to support it already." "Only if I can pay for lunch," insisted Tanya. "That's good for me," he replied. "How about the Weaver's Arms? We can pass it on the way back through the Bridlewell Trail at Brook Wood." They soon arrived. During the pub lunch that day, as Tanya looked into her purse for the money to pay as promised, she noticed she'd gained an extra £20 note. "Where on earth has that come from?" she said. "It wasn't there last night. I only had 4 £10 notes and another £5." As she passed it over to the landlord, she noticed written across it, in black crayon, the words, "This is for my dad." The end.
I thank God that I met you every day. I thank God I held you when I prayed. I curse the day I forgot to tell you. And life is short, I know, now I don't have you. I thank God for your life. I say goodnight. And I'll thank God my whole life. Turn out the lights. I believe that you are in a better place. For I must let you go out into God's space. I long to know it won't be long until I see you again. For I am only waiting in the next room. And I thank God for your life. I say goodnight. I'll thank God my whole life when I turn out the light. I thank God I met you every day. And I thank God that I held you when I prayed. I curse the day I forgot to tell you. Life is short, I know, now I don't have you. I thank God I met you every day. And I thank God that I held you when I prayed. Yeah, I thank God I met you every day. And I thank God that I held you when I prayed. Yeah, I thank God that I met you every day. And I thank God that I held you when I prayed. I thank God that I met you every day.
Don't forget, coming soon in Book 2, The Gold Star Kid and the Dream Bond Robbers. Whilst the children sleep, the Dream Bond Robbers arrive to steal their happy dreams, and the Gold Star Kid must go to America to meet with the president. And remember, copyright exists. Brittunculi, Records and Books, Jonathan R.P. Taylor. Search for Jonathan Taylor, British singer-songwriter.